So this morning, as I mentioned, I chose in my topic, as my topic of exploration, the grace in aging. We have a variety of ages here, um, but I would say that a good percentage of us are over 50. And I think that sometimes something that comes with age is seeking a greater meaning and a greater fulfillment as we move towards life's grand finale. You know, it's important to ask ourselves what really matters at this point in my life. What really matters at this point in my life. You know, there are many ways to live our older years. Some ways have more wisdom, right? Some ways have more peace, and some lead to more peace than others. There's also some that lead to bewilderment and the phenomenon that psychologist Erik Erikson calls ego despair. Ego despair. And I think that is what happens when we get to the end of life and we are questioning what had meaning, and if we really lived our life in the way that was most meaningful. So this talk today, though, is really to speak to the place in you that has been stirred, that has been moved towards a wish to awaken. You know, I believe that everybody that's here has been moved towards that wish to awaken, that desire to awaken and grow in consciousness, and to live more sane, more kind, more peaceful. Anybody? Is that your desire? More deeply connected with the sacred. You know, I think that's why you're here in this room. I know that's why I'm here in this room. So my talk is in part based on this wonderful book. I love this book so much. I highly recommend it. The Grace in Aging. It's by Kathleen Dowling Singh. She's no longer in this physical world, but what a powerful. She's a Buddhist teacher and she was a psychotherapist, and she has a couple of. She has The Grace in Dying as well. But I just highly recommend her work. It's very inspiring. But let me read you something she writes. She says, with some outer vistas closing as we age, we would do well to recognize that inner vistas, peaceful and joyful and beautiful beyond imagining, can open. These inner vistas have always been within, available to us. We often just didn't have the time to explore them in any depth while we were immersed in the busyness of our lives to date. There's a funny phenomena about the mind. You know, it tends to think aging just happens to others, right? You know, not to us, because, you know, we're special. I know in my 20s I thought that way, Jessie. But as much as we like to pretend that all of this could just go on forever, form is impermanent, right? Form has a shelf life. And instead of denying it, we can make peace with it and with this process of aging and explore the later years of our life as the richest time for us. That's how I'm feeling about it. I really am. You know, and a big part of what makes peace possible is lightening our attachments. A good sense of humor is extremely helpful at this point in your life. If we're not so attached, sometimes the changes are actually rather humorous. Rodney Dangerfield joked, I'm at the age where food has taken the place of sex in my life. In fact, I've just had a mirror put over my kitchen table. But even eating can be challenging, right? Because teeth are harder to hold on to during the aging process, right? I remember my mom in her last couple years held on to that last molar. And, you know, every time we take her to have that tooth pulled, her blood pressure would shoot up and they wouldn't let her have it pulled. So she learned to keep that tooth by microdosing antibiotics. And she kept that one tooth till her last day. I read in Reader's Digest about these two old guys, Fred and Sam, who went to the movies. And after a few minutes at the movies, Fred heard Sam like on his knees, like shuffling around under the seat trying to find something. And he said, what are you doing, Sam? And Sam said, I lost my caramel. It's somewhere on the floor. And Fred said, well, just leave it. I'm sure it's filthy by now. And he goes, no, I can't leave it. My teeth are in it. If we're honest, we sometimes face the feeling that we may not be as attractive to others as we once were. But I like what Agatha Christie has to say about that. She said, an archaeologist is the best husband a woman can have. The older she gets, the more interested he is in her. Oh. In some ways, getting old is dangerous. It's a dangerous process. I saw a meme that said, regular naps prevent old age, especially if you take them while driving. We have to laugh. We have to laugh. Laughter creates lightning, and it's so healing. Oh, it's great to laugh with you. In Buddhism, they make a distinction between a human life and a precious human life. And that difference is that a precious human life is one in which we have the opportunity to practice the Dharma. We have the opportunity to practice the Dharma, and we choose to practice the Dharma. And so I'd say everyone here today has a precious human life. The Dharma means truth. It's the seeking of the deepest truth of who we are and the ultimate reality. So we're very, very fortunate to both have attraction to the Dharma and the freedom to practice. That is really a privilege. It's a privilege other countries don't have and many other people don't have. So one of the great gifts of this human life is discovering awareness, right? First, we realize we have awareness. And then when we go deeper, we realize we are awareness. You know, to realize we have awareness is to notice, something seems to be inhabiting this human body, right? Something is noticing that there's a voice and words are being spoken. That's having awareness. But then when you go deeply, deeply, deeply into awareness, like we do sometimes in meditation, you are awareness, right? You're awareness, and perhaps there's a body, awareness of a body. Perhaps there's awareness of sound. But you are awareness. So this discovery, amazingly, is something that many people miss in life. It's like an unwrapped present. It's like a gift that some people never really explore, right? But awareness is always at ease. Awareness is always content. And it just simply witnesses, and it has no opinion. It is untouched by whatever it witnesses. It is the peace that passeth the understanding of the mind, because it's at peace. It is peace itself, right? So it watches the mind, and it watches emotions, and it watches our changing states as an observer. It's very curious. It's curious, it's loving, and it's at peace, but it's always unaffected. That's the beauty of awareness. So if you're not experiencing enough ease and contentment, you know, I would say that's a message to open and explore the gift of awareness more, right? And this inherent gift of who we are in our very essence, right? Many people, even in their later years, amazingly are unfamiliar with awareness, right? So we all have moments, though, when the mind stops and we're just present, right? I was walking in the park yesterday, and I was at one of my favorite little spots there by the creek, and I looked down, and there was this brand new family of like yellow golden mushrooms. They had just come up, and they were so beautiful. They were just really plump and round and gorgeous. And I just knelt down, and I was just filled with wonder. And there was no thinking. There was just curiosity and wonder and awe at life. And that is awareness. That's just when the mind stops and you're resting in awareness. Mary Oliver describes this in one of her poems, The Summer Day. It goes, "Who made the world? Who made the swan and the mushrooms?" I added that. "And the black bear, who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who's eating sugar out of my hand, who's moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon, too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? What if the best thing we could do today were just to be filled with curiosity and just to go out and witness wonder? What if that's the best thing? What if the best thing we could do today is have no agenda, no need to control anything, but just have an intention to live this one day awake and utterly fascinated by the display of life? You know, the more awareness is in us, the less we're interested in thinking and figuring things out and controlling anything, right? The more we just observe and we just witness and we just are filled with wonder. And when we are, God is awake in us. God is awake in us. That's where we're letting go and letting God be in us. So I really encourage the practice of meditation. You know, every so often we'll do a day of spiritual practice. We'll have a retreat because it's really important to meditate together. We only have our short little 4 or 5 minutes here, but we really, it's just important to have a meditation practice. It's essential for experiencing awareness because you're cultivating resting in awareness. You know, we're just in meditation learning to watch thoughts and watch feelings and watch that train of thought that wants to go, the monkey mind that wants to go. But in the practice, we keep returning attention to noticing. And Kathleen Singh talks a lot about the importance of intention and attention, and that we need right intention and right attention. The intention is to rest in awareness. The intention is to be awake awareness. And the attention is what helps us with that intention. So that would be placing our attention on our breath. Or perhaps it's on our steps as we do walking meditation in nature. Or perhaps it's focusing on a candle or a mandala. But it's very important to pair intention with attention in our meditation practice. It's sometimes, if those two things aren't lined up, it doesn't work as well. Say your intention, here's an example. Your intention is to lose 10 pounds, but then when you're in shopping cart, your attention goes to the cookie aisle. And you find yourself walking down the cookie aisle, and somehow those double chocolate chip bags of cookies are all in your shopping cart instead of that broccoli and those greens. So that's where your attention is not aligned with your intention. So when we're training our mind is like an untrained puppy, right? It can be like an untrained puppy, right? You bring this adorable little puppy home, and at first it's great, but then he's peeing in every corner, and he's chewing your favorite chair up. And you know, you have to train the puppy, right? And it's the same thing with the mind. You have to train the mind. And then once you train the puppy, he's just a delight. He just brings you so much joy. Same thing with the mind. It needs training. It needs training. So, we're wise to work on cultivating awareness at any age, right? But it's something that we have even more time for, right, in our later decades. So Kathleen invites important questions to ask ourselves as we age. Here's one I really like. Where have my past habits of body and mind, enacted throughout the decades of my life led me in terms of peace and happiness? Really, really important question. That's a good one to contemplate. Have my habits brought me peace? That's the short version. Have my habits brought me peace? And then another one, she gives a whole wonderful inventory of questions that are so self-reflective and helpful. But another one I like is, who am I beyond the persona I've presented to the world and to myself? You know, maybe what we present to the world is happy and loving and a person who has it all together. And yet when we go home and in our alone time, that is not exactly how we're feeling, right? Probably for a lot of us, that's the case. So is there unease? Is there unhappiness? Is there a feeling of being stuck in any old conditioning? Or perhaps there's places we've not fully forgiven. You know, I know when my dad was dying, I really helped him with that forgiveness. I called my mom on the phone. I might have told you this story. But Dad was in a coma, and I called my mom, and I put the phone up to Dad's ear. And I said, Mom, is there anything you want to say to Dad? They'd been divorced, you know, most of my life. And Mom just shared all this love. She just said, it's been a great experience meeting you, knowing you, loving you, having these amazing children with you. And I'll see you on the other side. And Dad, Dad was in a coma, but I saw this watery little corner of his eye, and I know he could hear. I know that was a really beautiful moment of forgiveness, of letting go. So Kathleen has a really powerful chapter on forgiving. And she says, you know, to explore those subtle places where unforgiveness could be stuck in us, right? Because, you know, if we're on our last day, we'd want to be free. We'd want to be free of that heavy weight. She writes, each time we engage in forgiveness, we're releasing our awareness into greater freedom. We free it from the mental affliction of aversion. There is no freedom in aversion. So I study aversion. I watch myself and my own habits of aversion. It's a great mindfulness practice to notice throughout the day the moments that you feel aversion and just work with that. She describes aversion as a kind of automatic negative reaction when we feel forced to deal with something we don't want or we don't get what we do want, right? So an example of aversion might be avoiding someone because we have uncleared energy with them, right? It's funny though, life has this way of bringing you together. You know, is that what you resist persists? I don't know if that applies, but I think it does. It's like, you know, if I really have a charge and I'm, you know, I have aversion and I don't want to see this person, I'll inevitably see them, right? If I surrender and I open and I'm willing to see them, if I do happen to see them, it's different. Because I feel like life wants to give you a chance to clear energy, to let things go, right? So Kathleen writes, forgiveness is a big deal. Forgiveness is a clean slate. Without it, we have no prayer of entering the peace of presence. It softens us, relaxes our hardened stances and our tense bodies. It frees us from stuck positions that hold us in limitation, that hold us unfree and keep us from now. So, of course, forgiveness, I've spoken on it actually not that long ago, but it's not condoning actions that are harmful. But we can forgive and have healthy boundaries, right? We can keep ourselves safe from toxic situations. But Kathleen writes, to adopt forgiveness as a regular practice in our daily life is wise. Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity, he always had a daily practice at the end of the day. He'd forgive the day. He'd just let go. Any little tiny little pinches in the heart, let it go. Just let it go. So it's really skillful means practicing daily forgiveness. So I'd like to just share a Buddhist prayer for forgiveness, if you would join me. For all the ways that I have harmed another in any way, either knowingly or unknowingly through ignorance and confusion, I ask for forgiveness. For anyone who's harmed me in any way, either knowingly or unknowingly through ignorance and confusion, I offer my forgiveness. For all the ways I have harmed myself, either knowingly or unknowingly, through ignorance and confusion. I heal these wounds with forgiveness. I heal these wounds with forgiveness. So forgiveness is so important for peace in our later years. I feel like Mom and I did so much work in the last few years of her life. I was so grateful she lived to 88. You know, we just got a lot done and a lot cleared in those last few years. And even once she passed, from the other side, I felt like we were still doing some incredible work in that Bardo period. I could just feel us connecting. I could feel her in a higher consciousness and me in a higher consciousness. And so we did powerful work even then. We're still connecting very much. So forgiveness is so important. And then another thing that happens with the grace in aging is humility. Humility grows. And Kathleen talks about the beauty of growing in humility and how we can finally become free of pride. And I love Anna's poem, letting go of the need to be perfect and the need to please others. Now that I'm in love with a place that doesn't care how I look or if I'm happy, happy is how I look. It's such a relief to let go of the need to be perfect. I have to say, I, in my life, have been a perfectionist. Perfectionist about music and a perfectionist about my studies in school and just so many things. I'm a perfectionist about these talks that I write. But I have really let myself off the hook more these days, and it is a real freedom, you know. I feel like the vanity. At some point, you just let it go. At some point, you just you let yourself be who you are, and it's just such an incredible freedom. Also, letting go of people pleasing. That's something else that has been so liberating, I would say, in the last 10 years is just don't need to people please so much anymore. I feel a lot more willing to just authentically be myself and honor what's true for me, right? So all of these things serve us in releasing our pride and our ego and the subtle ways we might have felt superior, right? Or we might have felt special. So it gives you more energy. Like I think I told you, or I know I told it in a story, that when I go to India, when I used to go to India once a month, for a month, about once a year, there's no mirrors in the ashram where I would stay. So for a month, I had never seen myself. I mean, I had one of those little compacts. So, I could see a little bit. But I just lost touch with all that energy that you put into your vanity, right? Plus, you're wearing baggy clothes, and so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have a few extra pounds, And when I would go to the airport to fly back to the mainland and see myself, there was a beauty. There was like a purity. And I just really feel like what happens is we're so freed up. All that energy that doesn't go into vanity is put into your spiritual practice. It's put into your awakening. And then the light really shines from within. Happy is how I look. Yeah. So Kathleen also asks us to consider, what are you doing to release any remaining persistent habit patterns so as to spend the rest of your life in a mind that is more peaceful and at ease? She says you can think of the wounded places in yourself like an abused dog that you adopt. You take that sweet dog and you treat it tenderly and lovingly and teach it new ways. So this journey of our later years can be incredible. It can be a time of incredible healing and opening so that the light of spirit shines brighter and brighter in us. I know in the Hindu tradition, they talk about the 4 stages of life. And at first you're learning, and then you're a householder, and then you're focused on your spiritual practice, and ultimately you're sannyasin. You just let go of all material concerns, and you give yourself to awakening. So would you join me in a few affirmations? I give my attention to letting go of all that binds me. I intend the best is yet to be. I am becoming free of all attachments. I choose to live with deep inner peace. I will love more now. So I invite you to take this talk and these ideas and just take it into personal reflection and consider how you feel about aging. I'd love to hear from you. And explore if your general state is ease or unease, right? What might still need healing. You know, of course, the essence of awareness is timeless. It is not subject to time, but we are consciousness poured into these bodies for a time. And it's an adventure in consciousness. So consider a daily practice, too, of forgiving, of letting go. May we all make room for grace to fill us and let the light that we are shine beautifully through us. Thank you all. Namaste.